G'day everyone, my name's Matt and I'm from MV Fishing Oz. This afternoon I wanted to give you a little rundown on how I've set my kayak up and how cost effective it is to get into an entry-level kayak such as this. I bought it without any of this gear on board for $249. It was on special. I added the seat for $50. I added a paddle for $50. So $350, I know it doesn't get a lot, but it gets you onto the water. Here I've fitted an electric motor. It's a transom mount Riptide 40-pound MinnKota. You can pick yourself up little bargains on Marketplace like this. I bought this motor. It was in pretty poor condition. All of the terminals up in the head were corroded. However, the motor still worked. I got it for $40. So if you do a bit of a hunt around, and that came with the bracket, and I was able to strip the head off, use the shaft, and use the motor for this little project. So what I've done is I cut the fiberglass shaft. There's a bunch of videos online that talk about the builds of these, and I'll link a few of those videos. But I wanted to draw you to a key little detail. So what you will commonly see some steering arms. So some people will use a kayak that has had a rudder fitted, and then they'll remove the rudder. They will use the rudder control lines to steer the motor. I've done something different. This kayak didn't come with a rudder or foot pedals, so I decided to use a little bit of my maritime knowledge, and I have designed a steering quadrant type system to steer the motor. So typically what you're going to find is two steering arms come off to the side. They'll have little loops on either end. You'll attach your steering cable or steering cord to those arms, and you'll use your foot pedals to turn the motor left and right. What I've done here instead is I've gone a rotary system now. Some schools of thought call it a steering quadrant. I call it a rotary steering system, simply for the fact that I'll show you the steering control in a moment. The actual motor is turned in with continuous pressure on the steering lines. So you'll notice here I've used some quite thin, I think it's 3 or 3.5 millimeter Dyneema, so it's non-stretch cordage. Now I bought all of the cordage, all the shock cord, and a couple of other marine accessories from a local Brisbane-based business retailer called Boating and RV. I've used stainless fittings all throughout, obviously 316 grade stainless metric fittings, so that way I don't have a problem with corrosion. So the benefit of the rotary steering system, or the steering quadrant system, let me just show you really quick. You have a infinitely adjustable pull and turn on your electric motor. So these little rope jammers, the cord comes up around the quadrant or the rotary pulley through the rope jam, pulled taut. The left hand side comes around the opposite and then goes through the rope jam. That way the system's kept nice and tight. So when I steer the motor, it goes in a very smooth and effortless fashion. I'll just show you really quick what the steering angle that I can achieve with this motor. I have nearly 90 degrees of steering on my electric motor, so that allows me to turn almost on a dime. The benefit of the rotary steering is that I can achieve an almost 180 degree lock to lock turn of the electric motor, so I can spin on a dime. If you've seen some of my fishing videos recently, you'll notice that I've got a very high level of maneuverability, perfect for in tight amongst snags, in shallow water, any tight spaces. I can literally turn the motor almost 90 degrees and spin on the spot. If you encounter shallow water conditions and you want to raise the motor, I've actually fitted a vertical motor lift to the electric. With this system, I can simply pull a cord up the front, and I'll show you that in a moment, and that allows me to lift the motor clear of the water. Now you'll notice that the steering lines, they stay tight. When you lift the motor to a particular height, I'll just lock that off real quick, you can actually still steer to a certain degree. Let's say you come into shallow water and you still need to have a little bit of drive. Let's lock him off there. You've still got that ability to steer that motor with quite a high level of accuracy. You'll notice on the top of next to the rotary steering pulley, I've put these metric bolts, and what that will do is provide a little bump stop so that the motor doesn't overturn. So if I go full lock, you'll notice that the motor starts to tilt, and that's because the cord will catch on the head of that bolt, and it won't allow it to turn any further. So that way you don't go into a position where your prop can come round and chop into your hull. I've got all of my motor controls, such as the engine tilt lock and also the lifting mechanism, on my left hand side. So that leaves my right hand side free to steer the kayak using my custom side stick, and I'll go through that a little bit more detail in a moment. Down the side here, I've used again a Dyneema type non-stretch rope for my controls. So this green line here will actually allow me to apply the tilt lock mechanism. Now when you've got your motor raised, you don't want it locked off. However, if you're just simply putting about, you release it from this little rope jammer. It's like a side jammer cleat. I think that's a port side and that's a starboard side. You can see the orientation of the two, but that just allows me to jam the rope off, lock it in place. And if we move down here, you'll notice that I've run the lines through these little pad eyes, little plastic, I think they're PNP brand, for a couple of bucks each. Then up to a fitting up here. Now I retrofitted a spare tie down loop and fitted it to the motor lock release mechanism. I just found that it gives a nicer pull. I just tie it off with a bow line. There's no fancy knots or joiners. It's nice and simple. And just a metric 6mm bolt through there. That just allows sufficient clearance for that screw there to go through. Now, my way of keeping this little device unlocked, so if I want to putt around and I'm in the shallows and if I hit something, obviously I want it to tilt up. Just release that real quick. Okay, so this piece of shock cord here, that just helps to hold that locking mechanism in the unlocked position. So when it's forward, it's locked. When it's backwards, it's unlocked. Now that will allow the motor, if you're going along at say 3 to 4 kilometers an hour, or you might be cruising at top speed, that just allows the motor to not be damaged. Now I've just used a bit of 10mm high density polyethylene that I had as a motor bracket. The last thing you want to do is be putting any stress on your fittings, because I've used the existing brass inserts with metric bolts to secure the plate to the kayak. You'll see I've butchered this MinnKota bracket for the simple reason I wanted to make sure that I could still use my handle. I've cut it off at the front, and then I've simply attached it to the plate with 4 metric 6mm bolts. I screwed in from the underside. To allow the motor to lift it in a vertical fashion, you need to run this blue line. So as I was saying earlier, with lifting the motor up and down, you're using the blue line. It goes through a side face pulley. Now this is a Ronston nylon pulley. I've then used a similar small pulley on the bottom attached with a small stainless steel D-shackle. Now you have to drill a hole through this section in order for the D-shackle to actually go through. So you can see just through that little gusset there. So the rope comes through that side pulley on the other side, it comes down, then it comes back up. So that gives you a mechanical advantage. There's less force and weight that you have to lift the motor free. So we've got our motor in the unlocked position. We've got these little balls. You know, a lot of yachties will be familiar with that if you're into sailing. These are great because they don't get in the road, they don't get caught on too many things, but they're easily grabbed from the seat. So all you're doing is simply pulling on that cord, and you'll see there I've got a long shackle and another D shackle to orientate the pulley in such a fashion that once I've achieved the desired height, I put it through the rope jam. Now the motor's lifted, and you can see that is how high that the motor actually tilts up. Now again, look at these cords. They're staying tight. You don't have to worry about your cords going loose because your cords actually allow the motor to, you can see it's in that partially rotated fashion. The motor will actually tilt as long as your release is unlocked. How do we steer this thing? I wanted to go with a system that was able to give me a solid connection to my electric motor, that it would give a good level of feel and feedback, but also something that I could fit my potentiometer, which provides the inputs for forward, neutral and reverse. So I've made this bracket here. It's shaped to fit the hull. I've secured the bracket with well nuts. So if you're afraid of drilling into your kayak, this project is not for you. So I've drilled holes in, used the well nuts, used these little angle brackets. This bracket here is actually made out of high density polyethylene. Okay, so one of the goals of this little design was to not have any cables from the potentiometer running down and getting in the road and fouling. So what I've actually done is I've made this handle as a two-piece. So I found the most comfortable design and size for the handle. I've made it in two pieces. I've carved it out. I've kept it together with some Phillips head self-tapper screws, one on either side, and I've actually used my router to carve a groove down the inside like a little channel, so that the Cat 5 cable, which is this little blue one here, is actually kept hidden. So if we just hop down really quick, we might be able to have a look up in there. The Cat 5 cable comes down out through the base of this pedestal and then into the hull. Pretty tricky little idea, and I'm really proud of that. Now, this is not a pulley you can buy off the shelf, unfortunately. I had to use a 105 or 110 mil hole saw. Now, it took me at least 40 minutes to drill through this 12 mil HDPE. It is tough as nails, but you've almost got to go slow, keep it cool, otherwise it starts to melt. Typically what you'll find in a lot of production kayaks that have got a rudder steering handle fitted from the factory is that the pulley on the front is actually quite a small diameter. So in this case, my final finished size is around probably 85 millimeters, taking into account the groove. This larger pulley will give me, you'll see here, if I just go to 45 degrees at the front there, now this just starts to touch my leg. So it's when I'm sitting in that in the seat, it does touch my leg a little bit. But you know, especially if you're turning those tight corners, it's not going to matter much because you're not going that fast. We go to the right, my travel is only 90 degrees. Now let's have a look and see what that does to the motor down the back. So we've got our handle, we're keeping an eye on the motor at the back there. Watch what happens. I turn 45 degrees to the right and the motor nearly turns a full 90 degrees. So what I've achieved out of this system is effectively, it's almost like a 1.85 ratio to 1. So you'll notice that the rotary steering pulley down the back is quite a lot smaller. Now, it's the same principle as a push bike. If you remember having a BMX bike or what they call commonly around the world a fixie, you've got a large cog on the front and you've got the smaller cog on the back. That allows you less effort on the front and more speed. If we were to reverse this and have a small pulley like that size on the front and the big pulley on the back, you would have very limited movement. So in effect, what I've achieved there is a comfortable or ergonomic way of steering my kayak simply through 90 degrees, and for most situations maneuverability is maximized and I don't have to use a lot of effort. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with the wiring because everybody's done those videos before. Look, end of the day, make sure you buy quality components. So I've got a 50 amp circuit breaker, the motor's rated to 42 amps. If there is a power spike, I'm confident that the circuit breaker will blow. I've just bought this. It's a brand of lithium batteries. A couple of young guys down in Melbourne, the Go brothers, they've got FPV-POWER. So they manufacture lithium batteries, all kinds of accessories, electrical plugs. They sell these brilliant 60 amp high waterproof connectors. They're about $10 for a pair. So for this particular join here, where I join my electric to my motor brains, there's about $20 in fittings there. So on my channel, I've got quite a good little product review of all the functions of the power battery meter. Yesterday I went out fishing at Wellington Point, and the battery was starting at around 12.54 volts. Look, you know, I was burning around, holding my position in the current, and it's down to 11.11 volts. So it's roughly 50%. So up the front hatch, and just please admire the beautiful parquetry decking I've got on the front hatch here. So inside here, I've got my 50 amp hour lithium ion polymer battery. So FPV manufacture this battery, and they use really high quality cells. They use a waterproof box. They've got waterproof glands, and this battery has a built-in BMS. I run my cables inside the hull. I wanted to aim for a clutter-free deck so that my working space, my fishing space, given that it's such a small confined kayak, like I'm 6 foot tall, I'm 105 to 110 kilos wringing wet depending on the day, I wanted to keep the deck clutter-free. So I've run cables as smart as I can. I have this actual cable running on the inside of the hull, and it comes down and comes out just underneath that seat there. So just excuse the what looks like a really dodgy terminal block there. I would normally have a waterproof 3-pin connector. However, I broke a terminal, so that was my backup plan. Alrighty, so underneath the seat here, I've got this electric box. Now, all of the brains are inside that box. Yet again, Axe Maniac, there's also Bassman Strikes, have got some amazing tutorials on how to wire up your all your brains and hardware. So some schools of thought say that you can run a PWM. I decided to run what's called an electronic speed controller. And if you're into hobby cars or those kinds of things, you'll note that the ESC is capable of handling a higher amp draw, but it's also capable of, it doesn't produce as much heat. It's also waterproof. Now, I've used a Hobby Wing electronic speed controller, and it's rated, I think, continuous to 80 amps. The ESC is also capable, apparently, of handling up to 300 amps at a peak. Now, it is only the Hobby Wing it's a 880 ESC. It's only capable of being fitted to a brushed DC electric motor. So the older MinnKotas, they're a brushed motor in the housing down there. You also then need to purchase yourself a potentiometer. So the potentiometer is what controls your motor speed, is connected to a special little servo controller. It's a little tiny circuit board, probably less than a 20-cent piece in size. It is a real bastard to have to solder 3 wires to. So with this Cat5 cable, you've got a signal wire, power, and a ground. I forget which colors they are, but you get my drift. So at a thumb tip control, I've got forward. You'll see there my prop moving in the background there. It's got a center detent. Bassman Strikes, Axe Maniac actually list a few of these, this potentiometer on their YouTube channels. And bonus points, watch that prop. I've also got reverse. So that's the potentiometer. It's all in that waterproof box, as I said. I've got the waterproof connectors. I've got my 50 amp circuit breaker. All right, cheapest purchase I've made on this whole kayak is $20. This fish finder, it's a Lowrance LMS 527. It comes with GPS. So I've just run the cables for the power down through that little cable gland, through the hole, back up to the battery, Kept the transducer cable nice and neat using the existing rails, what do you call them, accessory rail, that's the right word. Bundle up the transducer inside the front hatch, run it down through the side, through a little P-clip, and then down through a scupper hole. So keep in mind, when you buy these cheap Chinese kayaks, the seat, you can see there, it is not high at all. So I've taken a punt. I've built a PVC seat riser. Now, unless you're really comfortable and very confident, and you've got really good core stability, and you've got a really good sense of your balance, I recommend that you do not raise your seat up too high, because this kayak is only, 2.85 meters long. It's 2.85 metery. It is 83 centimeters wide, so it's very tippy. With the seat riser in the smoother water, it does allow me that greater comfort. When the seat was originally at its lowered position, your legs were locked out, your knees were locked out. In this position here, just that little bit of extra height enables you to take the pressure off your knees and also your lower back. Most kayaks, even the most expensive ones, have got seats probably made in the same factories. Get yourself a paddle clip like this. It enables you to stow your paddle. It's a product by Railblazer. This cool little setup, I got inspiration from a couple of fishers who use like the H crates or the storage crates, those kinds of things. So I bought this from Anaconda. They're a retailer here in Australia. So it's a cooler bag. It's designed, I think, for like 40 cans. I just simply bought these rod holders off Amazon. I zip tied them to the fabric loops. They're quite strong, and that allows me to put my rods. I always carry 3 rods. I got a 1000, a 2500, and a 3000 series Shimano Siennas? No, not Siennas, Sedonas. So a little bit more fancy. So I do keep my rigs loaded in here. Allows me to put rods in the factory rod holders for trolling, but it also allows me, if we stand back here, they're well out of my casting sight. So when you do cast back over your shoulder, you've got less likelihood of smashing your rods and getting yourself hooked up. Okay, viewers, look, I hope you enjoyed this bit of a build biology of my kayak setup. You can now see what I've done to improve a very cheap kayak. It was $350 with a paddle and a seat. You can't go wrong by looking on Marketplace, doing your research. Have a look at a few YouTube videos that I'm going to link in the description. DIY, do it yourself. The more you do yourself, the more you will learn, and it's a really great start and a great foundation to buy a cheap kayak and essentially build it how you want it to be. Hope you got something out of my little build bio today. Most of all, get out there and enjoy your fishing. Thanks a lot for watching. See you on the next one. Bye for now.